Once you have successfully purchased your house, especially if you have a mortgage, you have to have homeowners insurance on that. What that is if there was some sort of natural disaster, something happens to your house where you can't live in it, or it is destroyed, or any number of things can happen. You need what's called homeowners insurance that will pay for various things. It can, depending on how you set up your policy, there might be coverage in there for loss of use. Like, let's say there's a fire and your house isn't consumed, but there's enough damage that it's not safe for you to stay in. Your insurance may pay for you to stay in a hotel while repairs are made. If someone were to get hurt in your house, or you've got a trampoline and some kid jumps off your trampoline and breaks their arm, you've got insurance that protects you against that, but the insurance is on your home. It's different than medical insurance. One thing that you might want to look at is how much would it cost to totally replace your house? If it were leveled all the way down to the foundation, what would it cost to rebuild your house and replace the various things in your house? Okay. There's this idea of what's called replacement value. So if you have $100,000 house, you can insure that house for all of the $100,000, where you could, rebuild it from the floor to the ceiling exactly the way it was for $100,000, or you can insure it for marginally less than that. So maybe you have like an 80% replacement value. Anyway, most people insure their house for 100% of what it would cost to rebuild it. You don't have to, though. So just for like the sake of us doing these problems, that's going to change from time to time. Like maybe it's an 80% replacement value, 90%, whatever. So you just take that percentage times the replacement value. Where it gets a little tricky is when you start looking at other things that could be lost when you lose your house. Like, let's say you've got a garage and there's a car in there. So your house catches on fire, your garage burns down, you've lost your car too. So you can have some sort of addition to your policy that will replace the contents of what's in your garage, or, that loss of use that I mentioned, or if you have just your belongings, your stuff gets lost in a house fire, your insurance can cover part of that. So what that does is it's like a separate kind of clause in your insurance. Like, this policy will cover 10% of what you claim is in your garage. So if you have a $100,000 policy on your house, 10% of that, you would get that money for the stuff that's in your garage. Or a $100,000 house, you could get 50% of that for the contents. Basically, it's kind of a weird thing to think about. So you've got this dollar amount out there that will cover the cost of replacing your house, and then a percentage of that goes towards your garage or hotels or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this table here. And this, once you start looking at an actual policy, you can set these amounts differently than this. This is just what we're going to use, so we're consistent from problem to problem to problem. Okay. So our garage is going to get covered at 10% of our replacement value of our house. The loss of use, 20%, personal property, 50%. So like I said, this is kind of weird. It took me a little bit to kind of get my head wrapped around what's going on here. But let's see. Up here, just kind of keep this in mind. It says, how do you find the coverage for the different types of protection? You take the amount of your home coverage times a certain percent. Okay, so we're going to do kind of all this here. The replacement value for Joy and Ron Amodio, it's a weird name. Amodio's home is estimated at $94,000. So the replacement cost on their home, $94,000. But they're only carrying 80% of that as insurance. So their insurance, like let's say their house burns down tonight, they leave the stove on, whatever. House burns down to the ground, it's gone. Their insurance company will give them 80% of that $94,000. So their insurance company will cut them a check for $75,200. Okay, so they will give them that amount of money to replace their house. Now, they might be able to do it for that. The way things are going right now with, building materials are so expensive right now, it might cost them, twice that much to replace their house. It just kind of depends. So their insurance has these little additional coverages where if something happens to the garage and that gets burned down, they will replace, excuse me, they will replace give you a certain dollar amount for the different things. What is the amount of coverage for the personal property? So their personal property, like they lose all their clothes and TVs and furniture and everything's just gone. They will give them 50% of their coverage, not 50% of the replacement value, but 50% of what they're covered. So that's 75, 200 times 50%. They're going to get 37,600 for that. Okay. So just kind of pay attention to what you're being asked for. If it says, garage 10%, loss of use 20%, personal property 50%. And you'll see this table a lot. It's in the assignment too. Okay, the replacement value, this is that same problem, just kind of broken down step by step. So let's jump into this one. We've got a home insured for 90% of the replacement value of $120,000. So 90% of that $120,000. You have to find that first. So 90% of the 120 is $108,000. So the rest of these calculations, I'm going to use that $108,000 because it's 10% of their insurance, not 10% of their replacement value. That's what I had a hard time getting my head wrapped around. So their personal property is going to be 50% of the 108, which is 54,000. The loss of use is 20% of the 108. That one I can't do in my head. It's 21,600. And then the garage is 10% of the 108, which is going to be 10,800. That one I can do in my head. Okay, so and you can pay for more insurance than this. If you want everything insured at 100%, you can do that. You're just going to wind up paying more and more and more for your premium. Insurance is like anything else. You can pay for as much as you want. There's a bare minimum that you'll have to keep in some regards, but then you can just jack it up and pay out the nose for as much as you want. Okay, one last one here. We've got a relatively inexpensive home valued at $38,500. 90% of the home is covered. So 90%, the amount of the insurance is 90% of the $38,500. That is $34,650. Okay, so how much do they get for personal property? Personal property is 50% of that. Whoops, 50. Yeah, 50%. 34,650. $34,650. 17,325. Okay, that's it. Find the amount of the insurance and then break it down per coverage.